Hi, welcome to another Woohoo Wednesday. I'm Little Woo and I'm here to address another life topic. This time it's actually one that I've been wanting to do, so it's not a direct question that I've received, but the topic is secrets to longevity from observing my centenarian grandma. I call her Papa, which means grandma in Cantonese, but it's very specific. It actually means the mum of your mum. So Papa is my grandma, and she's 103 years old. People have been studying centenarians for a while now, and they've discovered several communities around the world that have a lot of centenarians. And so, of course, they've wanted to see what are the dominant activities, what are the guidelines for living a long life. And so I wanted to look that up first to compare to what I've observed in my grandma. And so the three communities that they studied were Sardinia in Italy, and Okinawa in Japan, and then this place in California called Loma Linda, which is a community of Seventh-day Adventists. Here's what they discovered. In Sardinia, the keys that they felt were a secret to that community's longevity was lots of long life of hard work. So very physical labor, but labor that they didn't mind, and they were very, physically active, and strong family connections, and eating homegrown food. So just whatever they were growing there, they were eating. So no processed food. So that was part of what they thought might be their secret. In Okinawa, Japan, there's some very interesting concepts that were brought up. One is ikigai, so that sense of life purpose, and that the people practice this awareness of their ikigai. What is their life purpose? What is what they call their reason to get up in the morning? And so having a really deep connection to why you must get up every morning, why you want to get up, what your goals are, helps you maybe to have longevity, according to this community. And they also had another practice called the moai, and that is a support network that is like a lifelong support network. It could be a dozen people or a little bit more, where they provide each other financial, emotional, and support throughout their life. It doesn't have to be family. And then the other concept that came up for the Okinawans is this idea of hara hachibu, which is, I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but it's about eating till you're 80% full. And so that was some of the concepts that were coming up as to what they thought was the secret to their longevity. The third community, the Seventh-day Adventist community, what they thought was that they were all vegetarians, so they did not eat red meat. They eat mostly grains and vegetables and nuts. And they also had a strong social network. They spent a lot of time socializing with other churchgoers. And of course, finally, the last part was that they felt they had a deep purpose around their religion. So again, there's a similarity about having a strong purpose and having a strong social network. In another book, called The Longevity Project, the authors, Dr. Howard Freeman and Dr. Leslie Martin, explained that those who live longer, and I'm going to read a quote, had often complex pattern of persistence, prudence, hard work, and close involvement with friends and communities. So again, there's that idea of hard work and having a strong community. Looking at all these articles, I see that there's a bunch of things that keep coming up that you won't be surprised to hear. Of course, exercise, not smoking, not drinking, sleep, a good diet, having good genes, of course, having a strong community, again, that comes up. Wealth, interestingly enough, of course, they didn't say that wealth ensured that you would live long, but that poverty was definitely an issue in shortening your lifespan. There have been cases of people living in deep poverty that live very long lives, but that was a more generic truth that they found. Education was found to extend life. Every year of education that you achieved expanded your life, according to some studies. Positive attitude and stress reduction. Those are the two other things that came up a lot in the articles that I read. Okay, so now to my grandmother. These are the things that I've observed watching my grandmother over the years, because she lived with us when I was growing up. So I've always, since I was born, I lived in a family where there was a grandma living in the house with us. And so my papa lived in the next room, and so I got to watch her over the years. So exercise, I'm going to go through each one. Exercise. She didn't believe in exercise. She said it wastes qi. So qi is the Chinese word for life force, and she felt that it wastes qi. And that's her philosophy, so she didn't exercise. Smoking and alcohol, she didn't smoke, but she did have a little bit of alcohol periodically, but it was a very, very little. And in sleep, she used to stay up late. Up until she was about 100, she would stay up till midnight or 1 a.m., and she would sleep in a little bit, but she didn't go to bed early. So that's something that a lot of people believe. You go to bed early, it's better for your health. Well, in her case, might be an anomaly, I don't know, but she did like to stay up late. Diet. She ate pretty much everything. She ate all kinds of meat. She doesn't eat beef, but she does eat pork, lamb, other types of red meat, chicken, seafood. But she also did eat a lot of processed foods. She ate all kinds of snacks and chips, and as some of you might have seen in my little story, she loved hickory sticks. And she ate sweets, and she ate, she didn't drink much liquid, only some tea, not too much water. So again, she wasn't seemingly to be very hydrated, but that didn't seem to affect her longevity. Social network, this is where it's very, it's been a common thing that's brought up, and I would say that she really is a loner, has a very cynical view of people. She'd rather not talk to people, and when she gets to know someone, eventually, quite quickly, she starts to dislike them. But she does have her family, my mom, my sister, and I. We are her threesome family that has always been there to support her, so that could be a really important factor, that she knew we were always going to be there to help her. And wealth, that was a topic that came up earlier. As I said, there's some truth maybe to that. She married my grandpa, who was wealthy at the time. He was a very high-ranking military officer who also was an entrepreneur, who built all kinds of, he owned a radio station and the dock and and a school, and just he was very wealthy. He lived in a beautiful house. But when the communists came in China, my grandfather lost everything. And then he went to live in the poorest ghetto of Hong Kong in order to help the other disenfranchised soldiers. So he was a man of deep duty, and he went to live in extreme poverty to help the other soldiers and give out food. And so he lived the rest of his life there, mostly in poverty, with my mom. But my grandmother got a job right away as soon as that happened, and lived with this doctor, and had a chef even cook for her, and servants. So she lived a very basic life of very little work, and she didn't have to live in the poor ghetto. So maybe that kind of experience of wealth is part of her longevity. Education, unclear. We don't know how much education she has. She doesn't speak very much English, but she does know how to read Chinese, of course. And she has skills like sewing and cooking, and positive attitude, which is the next thing. She was very secretive about her life. She has been all along, no matter how often we ask. She was really reluctant to tell us anything. So I would assume that there might have been some trauma or some shame around her past, which we don't know. And her negativity about people, her cynicism, might be a result of some of her life experiences, of course. She fought with my mom the whole time that she lived with us. She was very, she really wanted independence, and she disliked me in particular growing up, tried to make up stories about things that I did that weren't true, and I was in trouble all the time because of my grandma. That was something that I thought, well, she's not a very happy person. She was angry all the time. Good habits, well, here's where something is true, that she had some habits that she kept their whole life, and there were very secret rituals that she did in her room because she didn't share them with us, but somehow, we peeked and kind of noticed that she had these rituals. She would do stretches every day. They were just like touching her toes, and a little bit of cross-body, so that's a brain synchronization exercise. So she would, tap her body from right to left and do some stretches by touching her toes, and that she did every day until her mid-90s. And she soaked her feet in warm water at night, so that was a ritual that she did. And she also chewed slowly. So when she ate her food, she wouldn't just wolf it down. She ate significant amount of food, but she would always chew it very thoroughly. So chewing very thoroughly, and maybe part of chewing thoroughly allows her to maybe not overeat, even though she was eating significant amounts. So maybe that hara hachibu concept in the Japanese culture was kind of part of maybe her generation of not overeating. And of course, having gone through war and potential poverty, you tend to be a little bit aware of your consumption levels. Stress reduction is the final thing, and here is where I think her secret is. So I would say of all the things I've seen of her, many things are anomalies, that the number one thing that she does or is able to naturally embody is a lack of worry. She just doesn't stress or worry about things not happening for her, and things always happen for her. So even when my grandpa and my mom had to live in a ghetto in Hong Kong, she ended up finding a position as an administrative assistant for a doctor. You know, she just didn't worry, and then things worked out. She didn't worry about her future over there, and my parents sponsored her, and she had everything taken care of, no financial stress. She doesn't worry about how old she's getting. She's 103, and every time something needed to happen, we would take care of it, and she just didn't worry. When my mom got hit by a car and was hospitalized and unable to walk, and all these things were happening, my grandmother didn't worry. And when my mom went through all this like emotional stuff with her divorce, my grandmother just didn't worry. I deeply feel that she was born with this lack of worry, and that her kind of maybe her cynicism and her lack of compassion is more learned protection mode. But the lack of worry is maybe innately born within her. And the last kind of little thing is that, my sister and her partner, Adam, Estella and Adam, have this joke that my grandma's like the honey badger. If you've seen the YouTube meme, honey badger don't care, honey badger don't give a shit. Honey badger just takes what it wants. It's kind of like a joke, but it's kind of true. My grandma's kind of like a honey badger. She doesn't seem to care. She just says, I want this. She's not grateful, so she doesn't have a gratitude practice. She doesn't have a good attitude. She's just like, honey badger don't care. Honey badger want this. Maybe we can learn a little bit from honey badger grandma that sometimes we, in our practice of compassion and our compassionate, view of the world, we maybe worry too much. And the deepest part of compassion for me has been to trust in the divinity of others. Now, that's not my grandmother's practice, that's my practice. But by practicing and seeing the superhero or the divine being in each person, we might stop worrying about everybody and just trust in their ability to handle what life gives us, and that we're here to learn those teachings. So that's my view. I don't tend to stress too much, but I do care a lot about people, and so I think a lot about what's going on with my friends and family, and I sometimes I feel sad that I can't do more to help. My grandmother doesn't lift a finger, doesn't think about helping others, so she might be too extreme, but we can learn a little bit from Honey Badger Grandma to know how to ask for what you want, to not worry about others, and to really do everything you can to reduce worry and stress in your life. Have some good habits that you stick to and really stop worrying. I'll see you next Wednesday for another Woohoo Wednesday broadcast. Please send me your questions about life, universe, about emotions. And my email is treasures@littlewoo.org. And I also work with people one-on-one, so do check out my mentorship page if you're curious about what it's like to work with me. I do it on Skype, phone, Zoom, and in person if you live in Vancouver. And also, all these videos are archived on my blog at littlewoo.org. I look forward to sharing more topics with you. It's coming up to almost a year of doing the Woohoo Wednesday videos, and I love helping this way. So please send me your questions. That helps me. Bye-bye. Mwah.